Good day, distinguished chair and fellow participants. Thank you for joining this session at LEdhs 2026 conference. On behalf of my co-authors from University Malaysia Sabah and University Malaysia Kelantan, I am honored to present our study titled, How Personality Traits Shape AI Use and Lifelong Learning. As generative AI becomes increasingly common in higher education, an important issue emerges. Some students use AI to deepen understanding, while others may rely on it too heavily. Our study focuses on this difference. More specifically, we examine how personality traits shape students' patterns of AI use and how those patterns influence lifelong learning. Let us begin. To set the stage, let us consider the current educational environment. Since its public expansion in 2022, generative AI has shifted from a novelty to an everyday academic utility for students. Platforms such as ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and Bing AI are now widely used for summarization, problem-solving, and academic support. Yet this rapid adoption presents a clear educational paradox. While these tools broaden access to information, they also introduce the risk of what Sullivan et al. 2023 term cognitive outsourcing, where students become increasingly dependent on AI as a substitute for critical thinking and self-regulation. Therefore, the key educational question is no longer whether AI should be embraced, but how it can be used in ways that support, rather than degrade, lifelong learning. As the paper notes, lifelong learning involves not only skill acquisition, but also curiosity, strategic awareness, and resilience in uncertainty. As we observe students engaging with AI, a clear dichotomy emerged, aligning with historical frameworks of academic help-seeking behaviors. On the one side, we see constructive AI use. This is an instrumental help-seeking approach. The student treats the AI as a reflective partner, engaging in active dialogue to test hypotheses and generate new knowledge. This intentional usage enhances cognitive presence and builds crucial self-regulation habits. On the other side, however, we have dependent AI use. This mirrors executive help-seeking, where the goal is simply to obtain an answer without understanding the underlying process. Students use AI as a low-effort shortcut to minimize cognitive work. If used uncritically, this dependency leads to severe cognitive offloading, a lower problem-solving effort, and the ultimate loss of independent learning autonomy. What dictates which of these two paths a student will take? We theorize that fundamental personality traits serve as the primary filter. We focused on two distinct traits. First, novelty seeking. Defined by Cloninger, this is the human tendency to seek out new, complex, and exciting experiences. While this drives curiosity, without a regulatory framework, novelty seekers can become impulsive, leading to scattered, shallow AI use. Second, we examine perfectionism. Defined by Frost as the desire for flawlessness coupled with a deep discomfort with uncertainty. While perfectionism can drive meticulous AI refinement, it can also manifest as avoidance. Fear of making mistakes may drive these students to use AI purely for emotional comfort and validation, effectively sidestepping the learning process. To analyze these psychological dynamics, we utilize a structural model to test 6 direct hypotheses, labeled H1 through H6. This framework, adapted from Koo, 2022, posits that personality serves as the primary filter for technology engagement. The model maps the flow starting from intrinsic dispositions, novelty seeking, and perfectionism. These dispositions directly influence specific engagement behaviors, either constructive use, where AI is a reflective partner, or dependent use, where it serves as a low-effort crutch. The journey terminates in the student's capacity for lifelong learning. By testing these pathways, we can determine whether AI engagement ultimately enhances or degrades a learner's long-term cognitive endurance. To move from a theoretical framework to empirical evidence, we conducted a rigorous assessment of the engagement filter. This phase of our study validates the model using real-world data from the higher education landscape in East Malaysia. We surveyed 167 undergraduate students primarily from business and information technology disciplines. Our sample, with a mean age of 21.3 years and a 64% female representation, was recruited using purposive sampling during live lecture sessions. This demographic represents the front line of students currently integrating generative AI into their daily academic workflows. For our analysis, we utilized partial least squares structural equation modeling, or PLS-SEM. This variance-based method is ideal for exploratory research and moderate sample sizes, as it allows us to assess both the measurement and structural models simultaneously while producing robust estimates through 5,000 bootstrap subsamples. The statistical integrity of our data is high. We observed strong internal consistency, with Cronbach's alpha values ranging from 0.82 to 0.89. Furthermore, our constructs demonstrated robust convergent validity, with an average variance extracted above 0.50 and clear discriminate validity via the HTMT ratio. These results ensure that our personality filters are reliable, distinct, and ready for path analysis. Moving to the core results, we utilized a bootstrap analysis with 5,000 subsamples to test the strength of our hypotheses. The data strongly confirms that personality serves as a psychological filter for AI engagement. Novelty seeking emerged as a powerful predictor of constructive AI use, with a robust path coefficient of 0.79. This indicates that high-curiosity students are naturally inclined to use AI as a reflective learning partner. In contrast, perfectionism dominantly triggers dependent AI use at 0.71. For these students, the drive for flawlessness creates a dependency trap, where AI is used primarily for validation and mistake avoidance. Ultimately, the impact on lifelong learning is binary. While constructive use drives growth at 0.59, dependent use actively degrades it with a significant negative correlation of -0.38. These findings prove that personality fundamentally dictates whether AI enhances or erodes human cognitive endurance. By synthesizing our findings, we can identify two distinct learner personas: the curious explorer and the anxious perfectionist. The explorer, driven by high novelty seeking, uses AI for deep inquiry and broad exploration. However, their vulnerability is impulsivity. Without structured guidance, their engagement becomes scattered and superficial. On the other side of the prism is the anxious perfectionist. Their high standards often backfire, forcing them into a dependency trap. They utilize AI primarily for validation and mistake avoidance, effectively substituting true mastery with a shield against failure. Understanding these personas allows us to see that the same tool creates two very different cognitive realities. The findings of our study necessitate a core shift in higher education. We must move beyond simply making tools available and start intentionally designing how students think with AI, not just through it. The goal is to ensure technology enhances, rather than degrades, human cognitive endurance. For the curious explorer, those students high in novelty seeking, we recommend a strategy where AI acts as a Socratic partner. Educators should mandate prompts that require the AI to generate counterarguments and critiques. This channels their natural, often scattered curiosity into a more structured and deeper form of critical thinking. For the anxious perfectionist, the intervention must focus on process over product. We suggest restricting AI use specifically to early-stage brainstorming sessions. By emphasizing AI's tendency to hallucinate, We force these students to move past their fear of mistakes and retain ultimate ownership and judgment of their work. By moving away from one-size-fits-all policies in favor of these trait-aware strategies, we can bridge the gap between technological utility and genuine lifelong learning. To summarize our findings, we have demonstrated that a student's underlying personality fundamentally dictates their relationship with technology. It is these traits that determine whether an individual treats generative AI as a strategic learning partner or as a detrimental cognitive shortcut that bypasses the work of learning. Ultimately, the effectiveness of AI in education is shaped not by the tool itself, but by the personal tendencies of the student using it. While this study provides robust foundational data, we acknowledge its limitations. Our current findings are based on a sample of 167 students and rely on self-reporting. Therefore, the next phase of research must bridge the gap between intention and behavior. We intend to incorporate real-time behavioral usage logs and longitudinal tracking to provide a more nuanced, objective view of actual digital behavior over time. The path forward, the conclusion for higher education, is a call for a paradigm shift. We must abandon one-size-fits-all policies in favor of student-centered, trait-aware pedagogical strategies. By acknowledging the psychological filter of our learners, we can move toward a future where AI integration intentionally enhances, rather than degrades, the essential human capacity for lifelong learning. Thank you for your attention. I welcome your questions and comments.